What if there were a sweetener that tasted like a treat and was not only not bad for you, but actually good for you? One that naturally boosted your GLP-1, helped you feel fuller longer, and didn't mess up the friendly bacteria in your microbiome. If you enjoy the occasional sweet-tasting treat, your health will get better if you know about allulose. You're listening to the Health Courage Collective podcast, episode 203, a sweetener that's actually good for you. Welcome to the Health Courage Collective podcast, the show for women who are too busy to slog through hours of generalized, inapplicable, and often contradictory health information, but too smart to ignore that a few minutes of focused attention now can prevent years of suffering in the future. I'm your host, Christina Hackett, a pharmacist who doesn't want you to live on prescriptions, a certified coach specifically trained to maximize your potential, and a compulsive learner obsessed with preventative, cutting-edge, holistic, and integrative medicine. I'm on a mission to increase your physical and mental resilience so you can fearlessly look forward to your next 40-plus limitless years. Your time is now. Let's go. Hi, my friend. Welcome to today's episode. I hope you're having a great day so far. What are you working on right now? I always assume that you're walking or driving or cleaning or cooking or giving your dog a bath or watering your plants or doing woodworking or something cool. I hope it's going well. How are your algorithms? Isn't it great to have a way to put healthy behaviors that you'd like to do more consistently on autopilot? Getting algorithms running lets you do what you want to do with less willpower and conscious thought required. Pretty great. Today we're going to talk about something potentially pretty awesome, so I think it'll be useful for you. I'm sure you know that our brains have evolved to reward us when we find something that tastes sweet. We get a lot of dopamine release in the wanting and seeking out of sweetness. Our brains can get addicted to sugar through the same pathways that they get addicted to drugs. Craving, seeking, being rewarded when we score some, and the reward diminishes over time to the point that we feel like we can't function in our life without this substance. It sounds extreme, but it's really true. I was listening to someone with a doctorate degree in tasting or something. I'm sure her actual doctorate degree has a more elegant sounding name, but she studied taste and the effects different tastes have on us. And when she was talking about sweetness, she said a huge problem is that many of us, especially Americans, she was originally from Italy, I think, and I'm pretty sure she was Argentinian, but she lived in Italy for a while, something like that. Anyway, she said the problem is that most Americans live very sweet lives. And I thought that was cute. She said we're always putting something into our mouth every few minutes or hours, and almost all of it is sweet. We're never free from sweetness. It messes with our brains and our ability to have peak tasting experiences. If you're constantly sipping something sweet flavored all day long, chewing sweet gum, eating sweet breath mints, having a sweet beverage with every meal, eating desserts and sweet snacks all the time, it messes with your brain chemistry. So I feel like the best antidote to this messed up state is to reduce the sweetness of your everyday. Ideally, you'd never have anything sweet other than the occasional carrot or Walla Walla onion. You'd for sure be healthier if you did that, but it's so far removed from what we're used to and what everyone around us in our lives do that it feels extreme. It wouldn't be extreme to our biology, just to our psychology and our sociology. We're hardwired to enjoy and seek out sweetness, so it makes sense that now that it's so easy to be swimming in sweetness compared to a few hundred years ago, that we find ourselves swimming in sweetness all the time. It's cheap, easy, and pleasurable. But like most other things that are cheap, easy, and pleasurable, it's not in our best interest. Sorry, Pamela Anderson. I completely forgot that she was on the show Home Improvement. Lisa the Tool Time Girl. That was completely wiped from my memory. All I was remembering was Baywatch. And apparently now she's all about plant-based living, animal rights, and being your authentic self who doesn't wear makeup. So more power to her, and I think my attempted insult no longer applies. Let's try again. Like most other things that are cheap, easy, and pleasurable, it's not in our best interest. Sorry, YouTube. Better? So since we're all used to having lots of sweetness in our everyday, but sugar is literally killing us, several non-sugar sweeteners have come onto the scene with the best of intentions. The idea is that they'll give us the pleasure of sugar without the metabolic consequences. I'm sure you know that they haven't all lived up to that hope. Several studies, including a 2017 meta-analysis, show that consuming artificial sweeteners increases body weight and waist circumference. And way worse than that, there are other studies suggesting that worse metabolic health and poorer glucose control come from using artificial sweeteners. That's catastrophic for your long-term risk of all of the common diseases of aging. Remember that metabolic health is what drives your risk for all of those common chronic diseases of aging. There could be a few reasons for these problems with these sweeteners, including the postulation that our digestive hormones and enzymes and processes start as soon as we taste our food. So we're well prepared by the time that the food actually gets down to our intestines. We talked about that in episode 169, Calorie Casino. It's one of my favorite episodes, by the way. But I think that the main reason is that while studies show that humans can't metabolize a lot of these sweeteners, therefore they should have a net neutral effect on us, our human physiology is largely controlled by non-human cells, our friendly gut bacteria, or non-friendly as the case may be. When you eat things that alter the population ratios of all of the different strains of bacteria in your large intestines, you can alter your digestion, nutrient absorption, mood, cravings, and general ability to function on a cellular level. Many non-caloric sweeteners profoundly change bacterial ecosystems in ways that promote inflammation, impaired glucose metabolism, altered cravings, and more. Hey, I wanted to briefly interrupt to ask if you're curious about female bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, the kind that's usually started around the time of perimenopause. What it is, what it does, how it works, what it's like. If so, you should check out my Udemy course called The Basics of Female Bioidentical Hormone Replacement Therapy. The course goes over the pros and cons of using hormone treatment, which hormones are usually included with BHRT, how they're used, the lab tests that are used, some tips for finding a prescriber in pharmacy to work with, and how to develop a rough estimate of how much BHRT will cost you. If you've been wondering whether bioidentical hormone replacement therapy is right for you, it's time to close that open loop, stop wondering, and move forward with confidence. Enroll in my course today. As a listener of the podcast, you can get a special discount for the very best price. It's a no-brainer. I would just tell you the coupon code, but Udemy makes me change it every month. So check the show notes or go to www.healthcouragecollective.com/Udemy to find the special podcast listener discount code that's only for awesome people like you. Okay, back to the episode. I think it's useful to quickly go through the list of low or no calorie sweeteners and what we know about them, which isn't enough for the most part. Okay, so first we have saccharin. This is what's in Sweeten Low. A 2014 rat study showed that saccharin decreases glucose tolerance and reduces GLP-1. You probably know from all the hype around semaglutide and tirzepatide that GLP-1 helps you metabolize glucose better and keeps you feeling full. Almost all people in the Western world need more GLP-1, not less. In a 12-week head-to-head trial of 4 sweeteners, saccharin was the only sweetener to significantly increase body weight. The weight increase was similar to that of sucrose. Sucrose is regular sugar. Even though the saccharin people consumed overall fewer calories than the sugar eaters. You should always do your own research and draw your own conclusions, but my opinion is that you should never consume saccharin and you'd be better off eating or drinking sugar than substituting saccharin for it. Okay, second, aspartame. This is in Equal and NutraSweet. Most notably, it's the main sweetener in almost all diet sodas and many of the other zero sugar items. It's pretty ubiquitous. In the same rat study from 2014 mentioned when we talked about saccharin, aspartame was also found to cause glucose intolerance via microbiome disruption. A meta-analysis of several studies on body weight and adiposity reported that consumption of diet beverages sweetened with aspartame was positively correlated with increases in body weight and BMI. My opinion here is that aspartame is also on the naughty list, and you should do what you can to avoid it. Okay, third is ACE-K, which I hadn't really heard of much before. It stands for ace-sulfame potassium. Apparently, it's very common in sugar-free stuff, including Coke Zero and Diet Pepsi. It's a sweetener that's almost never used alone, but it works well with other sweeteners that have a bitter aftertaste because it helps to mask that bitterness. Studies agree that it increases metabolic impairment, which you don't want, and I'll put a link in the show notes to a 2023 study showing that regular ACE-K consumption is associated with a 70% increased risk of type 2 diabetes compared to non-consumers. 70%. That's a big deal. I say stay away. Coke Zero and Diet Pepsi are problematic. Okay, fourth, sucralose. It's used in a ton of things, but it first came around as Splenda. Its main advantage was that it's stable at a wide range of temperatures, so you could make frozen treats with it and also bake at high temperatures with it. It has been pretty definitively found to decrease glucose tolerance in humans, which matters. And it was also shown in that same 2014 study in rats to alter the microbiome in a way that decreases glucose metabolism. Increased consumption of sucralose in animals leads to increased body weight and fat mass. Interestingly, a 2021 study showed that females, but not males, who consumed a sucralose-sweetened beverage before a meal ate more calories at that meal than they did when they consumed a sucrose, regular sugar-sweetened beverage. Sucralose has more data showing that it has negative effects on metabolic health, glucose tolerance, and satiety than any other artificial sweetener. Sucralose is not a good option, and it does not make you healthier. Okay, fifth, let's talk about xylitol. Xylitol is a sugar alcohol that's actually naturally occurring in several fruits and vegetables, including strawberries, raspberries, and cauliflower. Humans also produce a small amount of xylitol during the metabolism of glucose, which I think is pretty crazy and I didn't know before. So far, studies show that xylitol-sweetened things don't impair glucose control or insulin sensitivity. I think of xylitol as a good guy. Gums sweetened with xylitol are actually good for your teeth, and there's a nose spray with xylitol that helps reduce biofilm formation and the chance of getting a sinus infection. The main downside is that cats and dogs, and bunnies, very important, absolutely cannot have xylitol, so you have to be careful if you use it frequently in your everyday food and you have pets. Okay, number 6. Another naturally occurring sugar alcohol found in fruits and vegetables like grapes, peaches, and pears is erythritol. It is also produced during metabolic processes in the human body. It's also healthy for your teeth, which I didn't know. It doesn't cause the same gastrointestinal distress that other sugar alcohols can. Limited studies show that it either has neutral or positive effects on glucose metabolism, insulin sensitivity, body weight, and liver fat accumulation. Erythritol is, in my opinion, on the good guy list. Erythritol and its friend xylitol are both heat stable, so you can bake with them, but they don't caramelize the way sugar does, so the result is a bit different. And they can have kind of a weird cooling sensation in your mouth, which is a little different than what you typically get with sugar. 7th is stevia. You probably know that stevia comes from a South American plant. While studies hoping to show that stevia improved metabolic health showed that it didn't harm glucose tolerance either. It does alter your microbiome, but the alterations didn't show to cause any negative effects. So, in my opinion, I think stevia is pretty much fine. 8th, we have mogricides. Have you heard of these? While I was looking at the studies for everything on this list, those previous 7 sweeteners kept coming up over and over, and I kept thinking to myself, hang on, but what about monk fruit? I personally use the Lakanto monk fruit / erythritol combo all the time. So mogricides are what is in monk fruit. It's really similar to stevia in that it's intensely sweet, so you only need a tiny amount of monk fruit to equal the same amount of sweetness as sugar. That's how stevia is too. Monk fruit has been used for hundreds of years in Eastern medicine as a digestive aid. Monk fruit requires bacteria in your gut to cleave off the glucose molecules on it, but so far no studies have shown that monk fruit does much to alter the composition or functionality of the microbiome. But there also aren't a lot of studies. Personally, I use it and I think it's a good option. Whew. Okay, number 9, you made it to the sweetener that we're actually here to talk about today. I hope this review is useful in helping you to make smart choices about sweetened food and beverages in your life. This sweetener is a little bit newer to be widely used, which I would normally think of as a bad thing, but because we want a lot of data before we start using it. But it was actually discovered in the 1940s. It's called allulose. Have you heard of it? Good for you. It's a natural sugar found in jackfruit, figs, kiwis, and maple syrup. It's partially absorbed from the intestines, and some of it is digested by bacteria into short-chain fatty acids. I think that's a big deal because short-chain fatty acids are really good for your bacteria and the cells that line your intestines. You want to eat things that are digested into short-chain fatty acids. The more short-chain fatty acids your bacteria make from the food you eat, the better your digestion and glucose control and the lower your inflammation and risk of colon cancer. An even bigger deal is that allulose has been shown to increase GLP-1. It's only been proven by studies in animals so far, but animals who eat allulose tend to eat less total food than those eating anything sweetened with anything else, having improved glucose tolerance, and they don't gain weight. These are things that GLP-1 helps to do. Allulose, as a substrate for something called SGLT1, that differentiates between real sugar and fake sugar, actually promotes satiety and food satisfaction. It activates real reward circuits in your brain. That's the opposite of what most artificial sweeteners do. They confuse your brain by tasting sweet but not activating reward circuits in your brain. Most artificial sweeteners make you hungrier and less satisfied. Allulose does the opposite. Allulose isn't as sweet as sucrose, but it is sweet. Probably through its stimulation of GLP-1, it can help your glucose go down without your insulin having to go up. That matters because you really, really, really don't want to have chronically high insulin levels. If you eat a ton of allulose, you can get cramping and diarrhea, but it's a lot, like 50 grams or something. Allulose has been shown to blunt the postprandial glucose spike after a meal. So if you eat something that makes your blood sugar shoot up, like tortilla chips do to me, and you also have some allulose at the same time, that spike won't go as high. That's pretty cool. Organic apple cider vinegar also does that a little bit. I try to remember to have a little bit of apple cider vinegar before dinner every day. I don't always remember, but I try. And since I drink apple cider vinegar a lot, I've gotten used to the taste and I kind of started to like it. At my house, we like to take turns making mocktails with Sunday dinner. Sometimes we'll use a shrub, which is a vinegar-based flavor additive. And I like shrubs a lot because I've gotten so used to the taste of drinking apple cider vinegar. I also have this organic peach cider vinegar that has the mother stuff in it there too, and I like that one too. Anyway, I made us a simple syrup out of allulose to use in my mocktail creation that I made last Sunday, and I had some left over. So I started doing my nightly shot of apple cider vinegar with a bit of allulose simple syrup and water, of course, because you don't want to drink it straight. And it's really good. I really like it, partly because I've gotten used to liking apple cider vinegar, but when it's sweetened a little bit with the allulose, actually really good, and I look forward to it. Okay, so there are some more small studies that are starting to show that allulose blocks glucose transport into the liver, which could help prevent fatty liver disease. And some studies that show that allulose improves fat oxidation, helping with fat loss. And some that show that it amplifies the benefits of exercise. As a natural GLP-1 agonist, it helps lower blood sugar, it improves insulin sensitivity, boosts satiety, and delays gastric emptying, making you feel fuller for longer. It might even lower your uric acid, which is a big deal even if you don't have gout. We talked all about uric acid in episode 165. That's a good one to go back and listen to if you want to know why it matters. You'll remember from that episode that high uric acid is bad in many other ways than just gout, including increasing your blood pressure and your total body inflammation and your cardiovascular risk. So lowering your uric acid is a good thing, and allulose might help with that. The reason I think you should really know about allulose is that some of the other sweeteners we talked about make your health worse. Some of them probably allow you to enjoy sweetness without making your health worse. But allulose is the only one that seems to make your health better. That's pretty great. Many more studies will need to be done to get definitive answers about to what extent allulose consistently lowers blood sugar, blunts those blood glucose spikes, decreases your uric acid, increases your feelings of fullness, reduces cravings, decreases fat deposition, increases exercise performance, and improves gut barrier function. At the very least, we know that it doesn't do the bad things the quote, bad guy sweeteners do, like confuse your brain and negatively alter your microbiome population. And it doesn't cause all of the negative effects of sucrose, like advanced glycation end products, high blood glucose, high uric acid levels, chronic inflammation, mitochondrial dysfunction, increased cravings, fat gain, insulin resistance, and all of the chronic diseases of aging that come along with that, which are all of them. Right now, there are around 500 publications on PubMed discussing the usefulness of allulose, and none of them show any harm. Like erythritol, allulose is not calorie-free. It provides 0.2 calories per gram. Sucrose, regular sugar, is 4 calories per gram. So 30 grams of sugar is 120 calories, and 30 grams of allulose or erythritol is 6 calories. Some doctors are prescribing allulose to their patients and noticing metabolic improvements. So those patients have a specified dose of how much allulose to get at a certain time of day. Some doctors are using its natural GLP-1 boosting effects to help their patients get off of GLP agonist prescriptions like Mounjaro and Ozempic. Allulose's ability to boost GLP-1 is way less pronounced than injecting huge doses of those agonists, but it's better than nothing when implementing your exit strategy from those drugs. Taking some allulose during your meal will help blunt the glucose spike you get from any carbs in your meal. At the beginning is probably best, like my idea of using a little allulose simple syrup to sweeten your apple cider vinegar before a carb-containing meal. But if you have it anytime around the time of your meal, it will be useful. So an allulose-sweetened little dessert at the end would also be fine. A lot of allulose on an empty stomach is more likely to give you an upset stomach, but it's not a guarantee. It seems like around 20 to 30 grams per day of allulose is a good dose. 50 grams in a day is pushing it into possible diarrhea territory. So, how do you get a helpful amount of allulose? More and more companies are starting to use allulose as their sweetener, which I think is fabulous. We might need to do a allulose part 2 episode after I've tried out more things and seen if there's anything more useful that I can tell you that will help you. So far, I bought a bag of powdered allulose from Fit Lane Nutrition. That's just what came up online, and I like it fine. I've made my mocktail simple syrup, and I've used it to sweeten various things like whipped cream, chopped berries, and my homemade Lactobacillus reuteri yogurt that I make, and probably some other things. It's finer than regular sugar, which is kind of nice. It's also not as sweet as regular sugar, but overall, it's been great. You can bake with it. I doubt it caramelizes the same way regular sugar does, but I haven't tried it yet. So far, no fake brown sugar version like with the Lakanto monk fruit. The homemade uses of allulose is pretty limitless though, which is way fun. There is some kind of candy called Joyride that's only available at Target, I think. I only know this because my 15-year-old wanted to buy some when we were at Target because he said his 19-year-old brother told him to try it. The sour watermelons were really good. Anyhow, it was started by some kind of YouTubers, which naturally makes me roll my eyes, but when we found it at Target and I saw that it was sweetened with allulose, I was in. Guess not all YouTubers are ridiculous. Well, they might still be ridiculous, but some of them have good candy ingredients. So that's an option, Joyride, but of course it's way more expensive than regular candy. There are several doctors that I think are doing good work in the world who endorse a company called RX Sugar. RX Sugar has various allulose-sweetened items. I just got a box of things from them that I haven't had much of a chance to try out yet. I might need to give you an update once I do. I got maple syrup and this Cocoa Puff cereal thing that I haven't tried yet. I did try a chocolate mint chocolate bar, which was actually really good, and my glucose level didn't change by a single point up or down. Unlike Built bars, which I like and have protein, but they do increase my glucose level. You can get RX sugar from their website, but it looks like Target, Walmart, and Amazon have their syrups and maybe a few other things too. I have absolutely zero affiliation with any sweetener companies, but I'll put some links in the show notes in case you find them useful. They're not affiliate links. As always, do whatever suits your life best, but I hope that knowing about allulose as an option can make your life better. I haven't been diligent enough yet to run A/B tests with a blood glucose monitor on to see how much allulose with certain meals blunts my sugar spikes. I am wearing my monitor right now, but it's kind of hard to eat one meal without the allulose and then eat the exact same meal with it. I could maybe make it work. It could be fun to do. If you have experience with allulose or more questions about it, or you want me to talk more about my experiments with it on a future episode, or if you've tried some things you think would be helpful for other people to know about, send me a message at healthcouragecollective@gmail.com. I would be super interested. If you'd like to be part of some kind of community that exchanges recipes or ideas or tips, send me a message and I will see what I can facilitate. We are all here to help one another enjoy the process of putting more years lived in good health into our futures. Next week, we're going to talk about making perfect health choices. Until then, swap out a sweet treat that destroys your future with one that actually improves your metabolic health, and don't be normal. Thank you so much for tuning into the Health Courage Collective podcast. I am truly honored that you have paid me the enormous compliment of your time and attention. I would be so grateful if you would share this podcast with someone you know and subscribe so you never miss an episode. This podcast is for entertainment and information purposes only. Statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Christina Hackett and producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse events by use of information contained herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.